Just go on Minerva. Anybody else session is up?
There's something to that. That names.
Live on YouTube there.
Okay. All right, please, welcome to the village board meeting of May 8th, 2025. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody, and welcome. Good to have you all here. Just by way of some introductory remarks, I will just let everybody know that we had our first meeting of the committee that's been formed to work on the New York Forward grant, the $4.5 million that we received or that we were awarded, having yet received it from the state of New York last month. It was a very productive meeting. There were probably 25 or 30 members of the public there. We had it at the Angel of Nyack. Virtually all the members of the local planning committee or the LPC were there. And we discussed the process by which we're going to be distributing the $4.5 million, which is just the beginning of the process. And I want to let everybody know who's watching, either on the either here or on the YouTube, that we submitted, when we applied for the grant, we submitted a series of projects. Those projects are still in the mix, but they're not the only ones that could be in the mix. That people can suggest projects. It may be the members of the LPC will suggest projects, maybe members of the public, businesses, and other nonprofits are all able. The process will be starting soon, where there'll be a call for people to submit things that they feel that the New York Forward grant should go to fund. Obviously, the ones that are already in the packet will then be reviewed, but then all the new ones will be given due consideration as well by the committee in a completely public and transparent process. So I want to thank everybody who was a part of that on Wednesday or Tuesday. On Tuesday, was it yesterday or was it Tuesday? It was Tuesday. It's been a long week. The other thing I wanted to highlight for everybody is that Saturday is a very busy day in the village, and we're hoping the rain will tail off by the morning. We have, I'm just going to count them off. I don't have them in front of me, but I know we have the EV event, which starts, I think, at 11 where the EV chargers are in that parking lot next to Easter Square. Then I think around the same time, Easter Square, there's the flower, is that this week?
Every Saturday.
It's every Friday. It's every other Saturday, but I believe it's this Saturday because I believe it's going on the same time as the EV event. Also, that same day is the historic house tour of the Nyacks by the Historical Society of the Nyacks. That's going to be all day on Saturday. That's a great event. If you've not already bought your tickets, it's really nice to get a sense of the history and the architecture of the village. And then later on that day, toward the end of the day, is Dancing in the Streets, which is the street closure out in front of Village Hall, where there'll be music put on by Maureen's Jazz Cellar. We'll be sponsoring it, and it's a really nice event, and I encourage you all to attend that. That's free to attend, and they'll be selling food and drink, and there'll be some vendors and things like that. So it's going to be a very busy Saturday, and I hope you'll stay local. And of course, on Sunday is Mother's Day, and we wish everybody who's going to be celebrating a wonderful day. And if it's a difficult day for you, we hope that you find comfort in your memories and in your immediate family and friends and whatever circle gives you comfort. Anybody from the Board of Trustees would like to make some comments? All right. We have, just to give you a highlight of what's coming on the meeting, we have 2 public hearings which can start before 8 p.m. One of them, which I think a lot of people are here for, is about the regulations regarding adult use retail dispensaries. Some other people might be here for the other public meeting, which can't begin before 8:05, modifying the regulations that prescribe the maximum height of fences, walls, and hedges at corner lots. Those are the 2 major public hearings. We have a number of other resolutions to go through, including, if there's anything that I want to highlight, a bunch of events, and I don't think there's anything of other major That'll be a big discussion, a bunch of events that we have to approve. I do want, as a courtesy, I always do this at the meetings that I will bring up if there are people here for very small issues that will take just a few minutes of discussion rather than having them wait through the end of the meeting. I bring them up so we can get those out of the way so they're not sitting around all night through all the different public meetings and public comments and all the resolutions. And I wanted to ask, is Anna Brand here from Planned Parenthood? Okay, so we have something to discuss, but we don't need to move that up. I do know Bill Batson is here. Bill's got two things two relatively straightforward things. I want to give Bill a chance to come talk about them. Bill?
I only signed in for one,
You only want to talk about one?
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Yeah, the other was submitted in writing.
Okay, so with and you don't want to talk, the bench by the road is Juneteenth?
Exactly.
Oh, okay, okay. So you bench by the road, that's in our communications.
Absolutely.
So yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I sent village administrator some materials that he has. The bench was, as people know, dedicated in May of 2015. It's a project by the Toni Morrison Society, and since Toni Morrison can be claimed as a NIACR, I think her zip code was 10960. We had hoped that she would arrive. It was later in her life. It was very difficult for her to arrive, and she did. 400 people marched down from the NIAC Center and found her, much to our jubilation, in Memorial Park. So it was one of her last public events. And the bench was dedicated to Cynthia Hesdra, a figure of significance in our county community when she died in 1879. She was ostensibly a millionaire. I think she had $250,000, which was the equivalent of several million. And she was discovered by a graduate of Nyack High School, Dr. Lori Martin, who's now associate professor at LSU. So Dr. Martin, we're the Historical Society of the Nyack, which I serve as one of the trustees, would like to rededicate the bench on the 10th anniversary. We'd like to use signage to dedicate it not just to Cynthia Hesdra, but also to Toni Morrison, remembering that day. So you'll see there's a sign that it's a kind of the process is called museums outside. So it's not just your typical metal sign with text, but it has photographs, it has descriptions, and then there's a QR code that will bring you to a website. If you know, the Esposito Trail has signs like this that do pretty good. I mean, those signs have been up, I think, for at least maybe 10 years or a little less. We have to think about placement of the sign for people with disabilities and also people who are maybe sitting on the bench, so it might be lower than the ones on Esposito Trail. So I sent a little graphic, squiggly lines, not really architectural, apologies. And then I also sent something with a suggested placement for it, which is by the tree next to the rock. It wouldn't block any views of the river. It's a beautiful view, but the significance of the view is that that's where two people who were contemporaneously described as Underground Railroad conductors, John Tout and Cynthia Hesdra, owned side-by-side properties. That's one of the reasons why we think they were conductors, because they were known as abolitionists and they lived side-by-side by the river. And John Tout is one of the founders of St. Philip's AME Zion Church. So to many institutions and people in this community, I think these are significant figures.
So thank you for the background on it. So what's the posture of this right now with us? What are we looking to do here?
He's asking for approval to install that new sign on a post next to the bench.
Okay.
And assistance with the post. We have the funds to buy the sign, and we'll make a commitment to maintain the sign. So if it's damaged or vandalized, we'll repair or replace.
Now, is this the sign that's in our packet? The
Yes.
red one with the red, okay. So that's the actual model of what the sign would be.
That's correct.
Okay, and how big would it be?
Um,
Maybe it's here, I just don't, oh, is that? I
it's
see where
30 inches high by 42 inches wide.
So about 3.5 feet wide.
30, you sure?
40
Panel
feet.
size. 30 by.
Actually, well,
I have
I'm looking at it.
from Fossil Industries.
What's here? It says 18 inches wide and 28 inches wide, 18 inches tall.
How,
I'm just trying to stay up to date.
I understand.
There's a lot-
I can give you this. This is what just came from Fossil Graphics,
Okay.
so maybe I was mistaken.
Yeah, the original proposal was smaller than that, so.
Bill, there's a lot of text that's going in
Oh,
there.
that's
It's
what it's
small, very, very small.
I mean, you know, we could blow it up and give you a better, obviously, the Historical Society has an interest in this because a lot of our members are older and we often comment on text size.
Yeah.
And also, I
But
know
I
maybe
mean, because
with
the
ADA,
draft one.
with ADA, so I think, yeah, if we need to reduce some of the, because it's images, so we could, I would spare an image before I lose some of the text, because the reason we want to do it is there was an article today about a project I did with Ramapo High School on history, and we brought kids down there, and we want a lot of young people to come down there and to learn about it, know about it, but if they go there and there's nothing there, then they won't really learn it, so we
Yeah.
want to have some information.
I will say, first of all, yeah, this is gonna happen, so we're not gonna belabor, but I will say this, we really do need to establish a better process, and I've said this probably every time this comes up for the last 2 years. I've said we gotta establish a better process for evaluating markers, memorials, things like that in the park, because they sort of happen in a
Case by case.
case by case way, but there's no overall guiding intelligence for how do we decide whether to put things in. This is really an enhancement of an existing one, so I don't have quite the same issues from a process standpoint, that I feel like this is just adding some information to to the bench and the stone that's already there. And it's obviously extraordinarily well deserved in terms of the value that it brings to the village and to the park. So I don't have so we can take this up by resolution. I would like to see kind of if we could get, before we vote on a resolution, a mock-up of like what the sign will actually look like size wise, just so we can, I mean, if we could get that to us. I mean, we've got to be able to print it. from
Sure,
somewhere.
absolutely.
I don't need it to be in the form it's gonna be, it's just a piece of paper.
I
Just the-
understand.
But the size, they get the size set,
Yes.
to make sure Joe can read it.
Bill, is that similar to the ones that's already like in South Nyack?
I think it
On the
is.
Trail,
I
it's
think
that
it would be
same.
the same size, but just shorter.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like it was
If you
shorter.
need that, I mean, as long as, can I just, yeah, obviously, if that's what you need, when's the next meeting where I can present it?
May 22nd.
Okay, very good, I'll do that,
Just, you can even, you don't have to even come to the meeting to bring it, you can just get it to us so we can look at it
very good.
before the meeting, so we can get a sense of the size and whether it's readable and
Absolutely.
how imposing it would be. Because what I have here is 28 inches and you said 42, and that's just a difference, so I wanna make sure I know.
Maybe, you know what, actually? We did add, the committee was so extraordinary that was involved in the original placement, and I thought it showed the kind of like embrace of the entire community for Toni Morrison and our legacy, so we added that. It may have added some inches, so
Okay,
we can revisit.
I'm not saying one thing, I'm just saying we've gotten two different numbers, so I wanna make sure what it's actually
And
gonna
we'll
look
try to-
like.
So you want like something that would be to scale, so.
Yeah, something, so like you just,
How much of the screen
Yeah,
space
like,
would it be?
just a couple of pieces of paper taped together, or you can have
Right.
parents that probably do it,
Mike and I will figure, Michael Lock and I will figure out how to
Okay.
present it.
just so we can see it before it goes.
Because as you know, when we were down there with that bus from Brooklyn, there are a lot of folks that might roll through, so we want to make sure that it doesn't. It gives information, but it doesn't make the park look. Not less,
Crowded.
any less wonderful.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be great, I just wanna make sure we see what it looks like, just to do our due diligence.
The one process item that we almost always do is refer these things to the Parks Commission for a look. To advise the village board if they have any thoughts about it.
Sure, they don't have regular meetings, so that would just be them kind of meeting.
Probably get them to review and get the.
All right, let's see if we can get some
to,
information,
send
get something down for you in
back
2
with any
weeks.
Thoughts.
Okay,
All right,
let's do that.
and
as
I'll
well.
make sure that what we send to you for that is updated,
Okay,
right, so that you guys see it first, and then.
we'll send it on to them. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Everybody good? All right, thank you, Bill, and you, one other thing we won't talk about today would bring on to next meeting,
Please,
like usually we got it very late.
all right,
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Bill, for your service on the LPC. He's one of the members of the local planning committee for the grant. Also, Minerva Parker from, who is also involved with the village as a member of the housing authority. Thank you for your service.
And the
The Parks Commission as well, forgive me, yes, it's just so tough.
Happy to look at that.
All right, people, Andy, you gotta give me resumes when people are gonna come up and speak, so I can make sure I get it all down. Good, you want to talk to us about?
Yeah, about the parks. Well, excuse me, about the parade.
The parade.
Parade route. We had a meeting on Wednesday and there seems to be question about the parade route. Our permanent route is coming up from Memorial Park,
Yep,
Depew through town.
yeah,
To Memorial Park.
yeah,
That's always our route. We've moved around in the past for whatever reason, whether it was Pavilion, because we originated in the Pavilion lot.
Mm.
And if you had work in the park, so we had to alter our route. But we don't want you to think that we're starting at RP ever again.
okay.
You know, unless you, if there's some work going on through the village that might affect our route.
I know it was suggested to do something with the route as a means of trying to, just as a efficiency matter, that Andy had brought up, and I'd seen some emails that had gone back and forth with us, and I think it was a suggestion more than anything else, and it was to get your consideration as to whether it was something you cared about or not, and the fact that you do care about it,
Yeah.
it's been expressed back to us, and it'd be
Yeah.
Pascal, be my position, because Pascal brought it up to me as well,
It's
so
important
to
to go
maintain
up
it.
there.
If it's important to your group, then I think we maintain the route as you suggested it.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that's why I had to come tonight.
I appreciate
Okay.
that. I appreciate that. We could have saved your time. I could have communicated that back to you, but I appreciate you coming. Does anybody else have any comments or comments?
Talking about the, African American.
Yeah,
The parade in June, yeah.
Any other,
The-
no other questions about the parade?
Oh,
yeah,
And just the route is, because of the way the route is structured, it requires a number of street closure block, for temporary street closures, but it tends to, because of the way it goes through lots of different areas, there's lots of cross streets that it has to cross over.
Yes,
So we had questioned whether or not it would be appropriate to do it as a slightly more compact route that would not require quite as many closures. But they feel very strongly about the route that they have, and so we're gonna honor that. And
and is there, I mean, like, is it any cost? Is there?
it's a little, that's why we brought it up, is a little more efficient, little more, little less costly to do it in a more compact route.
Okay.
But that's the only reason we brought it up, but the fact is, we have the parade is the parade, making sure the parade honors how the way we want it to be honored is important, so we're not gonna change the route if you don't want to change the route, okay?
Thank you, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for bringing it up. All right, let's go back to the top of the agenda. We can't do the public hearings quite yet.
Somebody's calling in.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
On the list,
Yeah.
just have to.
Oh, is it something quick? Okay, please, go ahead.
My name is Terry Grenier and I live on Bridge Street. Previously, I've addressed members of the board and the village administrator via email with concerns regarding waste management, environmental impacts downtown, and health and quality of life, specifically vermin. This afternoon, a parent of 2 middle school kids told me her kids are feeling so threatened and affected by the rat sightings that they became creative and were just about ready to start posting drawings with warnings on telephones and elsewhere. She had already printed them up for the kids to post. I asked her to hold off and assured her I would bring this to your attention at tonight's village board meeting. So I'll leave that with you.
What, this has come up before, you can stay up, in case I have a question. I know we've talked about taking certain measures to try to address this, because it's come up before. Where do we stand with we've had Manny, we've talked about really talking to the residents about getting covers for their trash cans and about putting out their trash the night before rather than 3 days before, which some of them do. Where do we stand with some of the remedial measures we've talked about? Getting a
So-
discriminator?
The building department's focus right now is on using it does fire inspections in multifamily and commercial buildings. And using those as opportunities to ensure that the building has a carting contract, that they have containers with lids to put out garbage in, and that they have a pest control contract in place. They will begin writing violations on people who don't use containers. There are definitely some problem-solving challenges that need to be sorted out. The Department of Health has also been notified and they've visited the village. They also have a role to play in code enforcement when it comes to health issues. There are definitely rats in Nyack, and there are definitely buildings which are poorly maintained and need to do a better job with pest control. And the village itself has bait stations in its parks down by the marina, around the DPW, the water treatment plant, in this building, and so on and so forth. And any properties that we control, we take those measures very seriously. But a lot of the properties we don't control. And
Well, I think if the property, we gotta get the properties in compliance, first of all. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but I was, no, go
You can
ahead.
say-
No, I was.
Get the properties in compliance, but while the properties are not in compliance, let's get an exterminator out here to. You know, we're baiting and we're doing stuff down by the waterfront. Let's go do stuff on some of the problem areas. To at least remediate the problem as it currently stands, while we take long-term measures to try to get the buildings in compliance with carting contracts as well as exterminator contracts and things like that. Like, they shouldn't have to come to us and say, we're gonna go call News 12 and trash the village's reputation. We've had enough of that recently. So let's try to manage this on both levels, both the future proofing as well as addressing some current issues with it right now. Can we do that? We should be able to find budget money for it.
I will talk to our pest control guy and ask him for some recommended additional poison traps.
So let's be aggressive about it. Let's be aggressive. I think it's a fair point. It's a disgusting thing. We don't want it.
I just wanted to make a point that I walked the downtown this morning. And I was actually pretty shocked at the fact that many of the establishments that are on Main Street and New Street, they either have their garbage cans out without covers, or they have their containers, especially on New Street, that are overflowing with garbage. And, you know, I think it's about time that the village, the building department, they come down on these establishments and find them and cite them. You know, enough is enough. I mean, how long do we have to suffer? And I get complaints all the time from residents about the vermin situation. I think it's, you know, we gotta put a stop to it. And the way we do it is we act aggressively against the violators who do not manage their garbage sufficient.
I would like to also say that your focus on residents is really offensive to me.
Okay,
The businesses are as much at fault and more than the residential population. But you focus on residents
Well-
being the aggravator to this situation.
I'll be honest, I didn't get that at all. When I've talked to Andy about this, we've talked about both residents and the
He
businesses.
visited my street last year when I reported this.
Well,
So-
all right, I'll take you, if that's your impression, that's your impression. People
That
have
is.
opinions and that's a fine. Thank you
That
for articulating. I'm just gonna tell you, my impression has been that our attention has a lot been on the fact that the businesses are often putting their garbage out before the day or two before the pickup, and we've been citing them. We've been quicker to cite the businesses than we have been to cite the residents. But your impression is your impression. But suffice to say, it's something that it's coming to our attention before. We have taken some measures, but we'll redouble them. I think if it's become that serious, let's redouble them.
It is that serious, and I sent to both you and Joe Carlin.
I got your email
detailed
today. I got your email
I
today.
thank you.
I didn't get a chance to reply, but I got.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else for minor issue public comment? Because we have an open public comment on any topic not related to the action items tonight.
Yeah, can I comment on her comment?
Sure.
Quickly, 30
Okay.
seconds. Sure, do you want me to?
I thought you were doing it.
Nope.
Do you want me to set times?
Just in regard, I
That's fine. Good.
don't know if she said to use poison, but there's a lot of dogs in the area too, residential area, so I would not use poison basically. But go to what Joe Carlin was saying, cite putting on the lids on the garbage cans, things like that, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We do have. Because we're not doing the public hearings, we do have public comments on any topic that's not part of the agenda, which is why we took the comment about the situation with the public health. If anybody else has a public comment that's not part of the action item or one of the public hearings, you can make it now. Otherwise, there'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comments on any issue. But you will have opportunities for public comment when we get to the public hearings and when we get to the action items. Let's get through the action items before we get to the public hearing issues. First, the adoption of the minutes for April 24th, 25. Any comments or questions about the minutes?
You want to do the motion?
Oh, sorry. Motion to get on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Motion carries. Action items, these are draft resolutions for our consideration. Let's start with 6.1, resolution 25-64, accepting the audit voucher summary. Can I get it on the table?
Motion. Second.
Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Motion
carries unanimously. 6.2, resolution 25-65. For the Board of Trustees to approve a home rule request for a Senate bill and Assembly bill regarding parkland alienation in the village of Nyack. Can I get this on the table?
Motion. Second.
This is the, just so people understand what this is about, the marina parking lot, when it was acquired back in the late 90s, was designated as parkland by the village board. As parkland, it cannot be leased, it can only be licensed. And that has been an obstacle for us trying to get something going on the old river space, river club space, the old river club space. And trying to get a restaurant there or some form of commercial venture going, because most commercial entrepreneurs don't want to get a mere license to operate, especially if they have to do any kind of build out of the property. So we'd like to be able to lease it, but to lease it, we need to alienate it from parkland to being village owned property. It would still be owned by the village, but it could be leased, which it can't be leased as parkland. So this is an attempt. In order to do this, we have to get approval from the state. So we've gotten both an Assembly bill, and we want to thank Senator Bill Weber. We want to thank Pat Carroll from the Assembly for presenting these bills to allow us to alienate the parkland and be able to then lease the property. It won't change anything about the property other than the fact that we'll be able to lease it to somebody who might then turn it into something positive for the village. Any comments or questions about this?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.3, resolution 25-66 to approve an application by Ms. Rivera for an event in Memorial Park on Saturday, May 10th. Can I get it on the table?
Second.
This is an event for a picnic for moms of babies and toddlers. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
How many people, how many moms, how many what's the amount of people? And where are they gonna be located?
In the lower field, probably near the, somewhere on the grass near the gazebo, about 25 people.
I'm just going over the list of things that we have going on in the village on Saturday. There's nothing in the park. Okay. Because that's for this Saturday. Joe, would you like to stand against the moms and babies having a picnic? Does anybody in the public want to speak up and challenge the moms and babies picnic that we're having, toddlers? If no public comments on this issue and no other, I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. 6.4, resolution 25-67 to approve an application by Bebstone to place a commemorative plaque on the bench within the Butterfly Garden for Betty Perry. Can I get this on the table?
Motion. Second.
This is, boy, right, 2 in a row. No one's gonna say one bad thing about this. This is what a wonderful woman Betty Perry was, and this is an appropriate way to remember and honor her. Anybody have any comments or questions?
I guess this falls into your original comments earlier about having a.
Yes, we need to have a process, and if this is it's a plaque on a bench, which makes it a little bit. We do have to get this process set up though, so we can put these things through from some sort of like cost benefit, whatever. Because sometimes we're gonna get something that isn't quite as a no-brainer as recognizing Betty Perry for with a plaque on a bench in the Butterfly Garden that she worked so hard for. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.5, resolution 25-68, approving a permit application by Hopeway for a street closure on North Broadway from Lightecker to High on Saturday, June 14th. Can I get this on the table? This is the rescheduling of the the fashion show that also features dogs as fashion.
It was just rescheduled, right?
It's just rescheduled. We had approved it for its original date. This is now a new date because it rained. It was going to rain on the date because it has rained every day for the last 3 months. And so she's hoping that the rain will have eased up by June 14th. We have nothing else on that day. Is that? Because the week before is both the parade and Pride Day. And so this would be the Saturday after, okay. All right, if there's nothing else going on, I don't think there's any problem with it. Anybody have any comment or question? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.6, resolution 25-69. To approve an application to provide music together for toddlers in Memorial Park. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
We talked about this last week. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just had an objection to it, because it sets a real precedent, this is a paid event, by the way. This is not the, free event. So the village is supporting a commercial venture using public space in the park. And I just object on principle. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money, but still, then next week, somebody else will come and say they want to do another event. And then what do you approve this event? So I'm against it on principle because of the precedents.
I appreciate your objection. I would be voting for this, but noting your objection, the response I would make would be that's a relatively small event that is not going to exclude anybody. It's just that it will be marketed to the people who subscribe to her program. And you know, and you're right. I mean, it does, I would be concerned a little bit about establishing a precedent that events, but it's such a small event, taking up a small space for a very brief period of time for 45 minutes on a Saturday morning, that I have less of a, you know, I feel like if somebody comes to us with a full day event that takes up half the park, I would say, well, that's different from the event that we approve for as a for-profit venture. That'd be
And
my
I do,
response.
yeah, and I do understand what you're saying, but she also said that anybody could join in. Not that she's coming again for this. I think this is a one and done, or no?
No, this
If-
is.
Well, it's-
Right, it's not
Got a bunch
weekly.
of dates, yeah.
If we have a bunch of dates for that.
there's dates on the resolution. It's for, it looks like it's gonna be for about five or six
Yeah.
events. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I
5,
was here when
6.
she was saying that, but you are right, Joe, in a lot of ways, because then we could just kind of keep this going, and we have to figure out if, it is a public space. So it's okay for people to charge if they invite anybody could come to it, or I guess we have to be clearer about that, I guess, in some way.
I mean, on her website, she doesn't really, it's a paid free, for some
Yeah,
season.
she said that she wouldn't close it off to anybody that wanted to join in.
If they,
But-
If they have to know about it, but
Right.
I'm saying she's not excluding people from it who are in the park, who
Yeah.
might have a baby and might wanna go watch and be a part of it. I would say, can we add something to the resolution? Can I just make a amendment and then can I read this out and then add it?
Yes.
That this approval is conditioned on several factors, including the brief amount of time of the event, comma, the relatively few numbers of events involved, and the fact that we have been given assurances that no one will be excluded from the event who has not paid for the event. Just simply to get on record, if someone were to come to us later, the resolution itself states that the conditions were upon which we approved. I'm not saying that will satisfy your objection or that would get you to vote yes, but I think it will at least give us something to say about a precedent. Did you get all that? Okay.
Yep.
That's a motion to amend it. Can I get,
Motion?
you said motion at second, vote on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Stephen
Opposed?
abstain, the amendment's been approved to the motion. Now, if there's any further comments or question about the motion itself? About the resolution itself? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Don, did you?
I know, no, I didn't say anything, because now I'm on the fence about it.
All right, I'll give you a second.
Yeah, I can't abstain. I mean, I
You
kind
could
of,
abstain, you could abstain.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna,
Okay.
because I'm feeling,
All right, so we've got, I'll start again. All in favor?
Aye.
That's trustee, you got that? All against?
Nay.
Nay, that's Joe. Any abstentions?
me, Donna.
They need a third vote for this vote, so I will vote yay on the vote. So the vote carries, motion carries. All right, thank you. 6.7, resolution 25-70, approving an application by the owner of Runcible Spoon to place a bicycle rack in a parking space on North Broadway. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
We recall we've talked about this. It's a biking rack in a parking space. And she has to compensate for the lost parking revenue with a rate that I forget what we.
125.
It was 125. It was what we charged for the parklets
It's per month, yeah.
per month. Okay. And
I have not had a chance to actually talk with her about that, so I don't know if she's gonna take that deal or not.
well, if she doesn't want,
That's the deal.
she can come back to us if she wants.
So she's got like at least two additional, there's two bike rack currently there. Is that not enough?
She would be moving them off the sidewalk into the parking space.
Into the parking space, but where they are currently, they're in like that gray area that you can't park in. That's before the parking spot. That's like right in front of.
Yeah, we don't like that.
Oh,
So we
okay,
need that for turning radius.
okay.
They should be moving it out of the line, the marked off line
Yeah, they were
hatched area.
moved out of there before. I guess
Okay.
maybe they went back,
Oh, I mean,
but
I'm
there's
surprised.
people move these things around.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.8, resolution 25-71, approving a permit application by Chris Hillen from the Pride Center for a street closure on Jackson Avenue on June 12, 2025. Can I get it on the table?
Motion, second.
They're doing a block party. They've done it, I think, the last couple of years. It would be on a Thursday, June 12th, and they have to provide adequate insurance and reimburse the cost for the event support staff as part of this. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.9, resolution 25-72. A resolution to approve an application by Shelley Gazes of Everytown for gun safety for an event in Memorial Park on Friday, June 6th, 2025. Can I get it on the table?
Second.
This is the event they do every year where they wear orange and they watch the bridge light up in orange.
Yes.
It's a great event. It's a great event. Any comments or questions? All right, we thank Shelley Gazes for putting this together and Everytown for gun safety for sponsoring this. It's a great cause.
Is this gonna be on the lower or the upper?
They go on the lower.
Lower.
So they can see the bridge.
Like last year was on the upper.
Because we didn't have the
They
lower.
had the seating.
Yeah.
We didn't let anybody on the lower.
Yeah.
Even the people even the people for gun safety didn't get to use the lower part. That's how stringent we were about the lower part. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.10, 25-73 to award a contract for replacement of the DPW roof to Titan Construction. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
Andy, what's going on?
There was a competitive bidding process. There were two companies that competed for the contract. The village engineer assessed their qualifications and the pricing and proposed the award to Titan. We're excited to get going on the project.
All right, good. This is, we need to get that roof replaced. All right, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 6.11, resolution 25-74 to approve an application by Sonia Rogers for an event in Memorial Basketball Park, August 9th to 10th, 2025. Rain date of August 16th to 17th.
Motion. Second.
Can we correct the resolution language to be August 9th to 10th, not 9th to 12th?
Thank you.
It is.
It says, the resolution itself, it says 9 to 12,
Oh,
which is more than 2 days.
Right.
This is a great event. I'm glad they're doing it again. My thanks to Sonia and Dick Wan for putting this together. Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 6.12, resolution to authorize the issuance of bonds. Principal amount not to exceed $82,000 to finance the acquisition of a DPW pickup truck with a plow at the maximum cost of $82,000. Can I get this on the table?
Motion. Second.
Any comments or questions? All right, this is good.
we have spoken about the memo that you put out about the surplus funds. Is this included? Is this part of it?
This is, all right, I'll explain, we'll go through this. Thank you. Yeah, this is part of a review that we did of the fact that over the last several years, we've deferred a lot of maintenance and or acquisition of equipment because we were being very conservative with our budgeting. And because of that, there were a number of requests that we get. The way our budgeting works is that the treasurer goes out and gets all the requests from all the different departments of what they want, and then reviews it, presents it to us, and usually there's more than we can afford to pay for. So we have to cut things out, and what has been cut out a lot are some of these equipment acquisitions that we did not get, we weren't able to get to, and some maintenance that we weren't able to get to. It happens that because we were so conservative with our budgeting, and because we did very well with revenues in some of these years, that we have enough money to pay for some of this equipment and deferred maintenance. As we went over it, we decided that rather than spend the entire surplus on the maintenance and deferred the deferred maintenance as well as the equipment, we thought, let's hold a little bit. What's a reason, there's a reasonable amount that we can hold in reserves without triggering any kind of concerns. We're not allowed to hold too much money in reserve, but we're allowed to hold a reasonable amount, and we decided to hold a little bit more than we otherwise would have and not spend all of it on the equipment and the maintenance, because we're a little concerned about what might be happening with budgeting coming from the federal government, the state government the next year. And so we thought it was prudent to bond for some of this while we can, and have a little more money in reserve in case we come across lean times in the next year or two. So that's why we have the bond issues. There is about $1.4 million total in deferred maintenance and acquisitions. We are bonding for about half of it, and we are going to be spending down the surplus for the other half. Is that accurate, Andy?
Mhm.
All right, so that's the basic idea. So this is the first of several resolutions that will authorize the issuance of bonds to acquire some of this equipment, which is sorely needed by largely by the DPW. So that we're back to hold on, 6.12 resolution 75 for the pickup truck. Any comments or questions about this from the board or from the public? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 6.13, resolution 25-76. Authorizing the issuance of bonds not to exceed $100,000 for the acquisition of a Mason dump truck. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
This is the second of these resolutions, same basic explanation. Any comments or questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. 6.14, we got a renumbering.
Numbering issue.
Yeah, numbering issue but the second 6.13, which is resolution 76. They both, this is just a repeat of the whole thing? No, we gotta renumber 6.1, the second 6.13 needs to be 6.14, and resolution 25-76 needs to be 77. Resolution renumbered 25-77 is a resolution to authorize the issuance of the bonds and a principal amount not to exceed $140,000 to finance the construction of improvements to the DPW building roof. Wait, didn't we did that one?
No,
Didn't we talk about this?
We just talked about the DPW roof a second
yeah, we
ago.
awarded a contract for the construction of it. This
Yes,
enables us to
thank
pay
you.
for it.
All right, so can we just authorize the work and not pay for it? Can we do that? That's what the federal government does. 6.1370, so this is 6.1477. This is for the DPW building roof, maximum cost $140,000. Any comments or questions?
Was this, did we have a,
Wait, did we do?
talk about the solar on the roof? Is this part of the,
The roof needs to be replaced before the solar array can be installed.
okay,
They're two separate projects, but they're related because the solar array will reduce electricity cost.
All right, before we go any further, can I get the motion on the table?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Andy?
Trustee Carlin was asking about the sort of order of operations, I think. So yes, the roof is in poor repair. It needs to be replaced. Once that is done, we can move forward with the solar array, which over time will save enough electricity costs in order to pay for the roof or other things that the village board might want.
all right, that's all.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, you're gonna kill me with this numbering now. So the next one is 6.15, but it's resolution 25-78. Okay, This is to authorize the issuance of bonds not to exceed $300,000 for the finance the acquisition of a garbage truck. Can I get this on the table?
Motion. Second.
Okay, this is the same run of we're authorizing some bonding for this equipment. We do need a new garbage truck. It is really on its last legs, and that's why sometimes your garbage doesn't get picked up because the garbage truck breaks down. And this will get us a much more functional garbage truck. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, are we going to have the old garbage truck, are we gonna sell that, or are we gonna keep it as a reserve?
That would be surplus or sold.
It will be sold. I mean, is it worthwhile keeping it in reserve?
No, because we only need 2 garbage trucks, but that gives us the redundancy we need if one breaks down.
So we have 3 garbage trucks.
We have 2 garbage trucks.
Yeah, we
We used to have 3, but we got rid of one of them already.
We got one decent garbage truck and we got a busted old dead garbage truck, and we need a new fancy garbage truck to replace that one.
So then we'll have 2 garbage trucks.
Yes.
in there.
Well, we'll have 2. Replace the 2 with 2. And then we'll have the redundancy we need. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. We're gonna get a fancy new garbage truck to replace the broken down one.
Yeah, so
All right, resolution 6.18,
this should be
Seven.
6.16.
but it's resolution
79.
It's awful the heck-
79. Resolution 79. To modify the regulations that prescribe the maximum height of fences, walls, and hedges at corner lots. Let's hold off on this one until we do the public hearing. 78, same thing. Let's hold off on that. Or it's not 78 now. What is it?
80.
80. All right, you have to remind me when we get back to this after the public hearings. All right, and that's it for the resolution. So let's, can I get a motion to open the public hearing? What's our first public hearing? It's on adult use retail dispensaries. Can I get a motion to reopen the public hearing?
Motion. Second.
All right, the motion is now reopened. Can we add 2 minutes for public comments for everybody? We have a list of people that want to speak on this issue.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you start calling?
Elena.
Can you give you something to illustrate the township better?
Sure.
That's okay.
You just give it to me, I'll hand it out.
Apologize for some reason. I think I have 5, but. Yes, I have 5. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, working, you can hear me?
Mhm.
Good evening, my name is Yelena Graves and I live here in Nyack. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have 2 comments about the proposed law. It doesn't really limit dispensaries. It guarantees at least 2 and likely more in downtown Nyack. First, it only applies to new recreational dispensaries, not medical ones. That means a new medical dispensary can open as soon as you adopt this law with no distance rules at all. That's a loophole that makes the protections meaningless. And second, the distance limitations that you propose don't really make sense. Recreational dispensaries must be 2,000 feet apart, but a new recreational dispensary should be only 1,000 feet apart from an existing medical dispensary. And there is no justification for this discrepancy. And frankly, this kind of law means that communal kitchen, which is only about a little bit over 1,000 feet from Starbucks, will be free to open as a recreational dispensary as soon as you adopt this law. This outcome is contrary to the very purpose of distance rules, and frankly, this disrespects the concerns of so many of your constituencies that have been here before you for several months. I urge you to fix this law before you adopt it. Apply the same rules to all dispensaries, any type, medical or recreational, and set one clear, consistent distance requirement. I have read the memo of the planning board just now addressed to you. I was not at the meeting, but I've heard that the planning board was not happy with the proposed law. But in the memo, it is asking you to increase the proximity distances to the greatest extent possible and allowable by OCM. OCM does not prohibit
Allow what?
OCM,
allowable by OCM.
Office kind of.
I know.
Oh,
Allowable by.
allowable, I'm sorry. OCM does not prohibit you from establishing regulations that govern any type of dispensary. And OCM does not prohibit you from establishing consistent distance rules that apply to any type of dispensaries. So with that in mind, we ask you to change the proposed law and not adopt it as written.
Thank you.
My last comment, if I may.
Okay,
Trustees Jim Gillis, trustee Lightfoot Cooper, Mayor Rand, trustee Joe Carlin, trustee Ryobi Taylor. I saw that the village board is asking you to consider to roll back,
planning
I'm
board.
sorry, the planning board, thank you, Mayor. To roll back the zoning so that sales of cannabis only occur in the CC district. And asking you, Mr. Michaels, to determine if that's feasible. There are ways that it can be done without exposing the village to the risk of lawsuits. And if you are willing to consider that, then we'll lead, this community will work with you to find a fair and lawful path forward, which is what we've been asking for all these months. Thank you very much for your attention. Mike? Mike?
Mike Hassan, 207 timeout. So, I'm advocating what Lena just proposed for the board to adopt a 2,000-foot zoning rule for both medical and also adult use. I'm not gonna go into the law. I will say that I read a lot more than I wanted to of OCM rulings and the regulations. And I also support Lena's position that this board is well within their rights, and that's something we could discuss at a later point. But I think this is really about fairness and justice. I've been a part of this movement against the dispensary since the beginning, right? And in the beginning, it was just Starbucks we were against. Now, Starbucks at this point is pretty much a done deal, and that's something we have to live with, right? And that was a compromise I was willing to accept, right? I would be annoyed when I walk past it, but that's the nature of compromise. But now, this is not fair and just, because what we're talking about now is more than one dispensary. And when I came to these meetings in the beginning, we were told this would block out the entire downtown area. And we would just have two dispensaries for a town under 20,000 people is more than enough. This is a vision, in my opinion, that is being forced on the entire town. And now I will tell you, I have walked from South Broadway down to Main Street and up Main Street all the way to Black Parakeets. And I've talked to not store owner after store owner to store owner about this. And when I tell people that the dispensary is going to come and this zoning law, about the zoning law, they say, yeah, we understand this is Starbucks coming. I say, no, there's going to be something in communal kinship potentially. And with the new zoning law, it opens up more of the DMU. And they were outraged. I have a list of all the places I went to on this. And it's just, they were outraged, they were upset, they don't want this. About 2 hours ago, I had a conversation with the owners of Black Parakeet. And when I told them about this, their words were, this is insane. I was at the planning board meeting on Monday. I'll wrap it up. And I saw a trustee or board member, I forget her last name, but when Catherine spoke up, she did it not as a politician, but as an elected official looking out for the people, as a parent, as a resident. What I'm asking now is for the board members to consider that. I thought that was very brave of her. She was looking out for her town. She was listening to what the people want. I am asking you, please, for the sake of consideration, compromise, for fairness, please adjust the zoning law so that it is just 2,000 feet for both medical and adult use. It's well within your power to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abby?
Good evening, I'm Kevin, is this on? Good evening, I'm Kevin Sheehan, I live on Grand Avenue in Nyack, and I'd like to make 3 points. Number one, kids and cannabis dispensaries don't mix. When you zone our downtown to have cannabis dispensaries, that's what you're doing, you're mixing kids in with cannabis dispensaries in our downtown where kids walk to after school and hang out in the summers, that's number one. Number two, when you do the minimum, when we do the minimum, we should expect poor results. Colorado has regulations that are identical to New York's when it comes to cannabis dispensaries. And that includes the minimum protections that we have in New York, for example, a 500-foot limit between school and cannabis dispensaries. Well, after a decade of the minimum protections, you want to know what Colorado got? They got a youth cannabis use rate that is in the age range between 12 and 17, that is 43% higher than the national average. So how do we solve this problem? Point number three, we do it together. We rezone. We keep cannabis dispensaries in the commercial corridor. We keep the revenue flowing from those dispensaries, and we rezone the downtown to eliminate dispensaries in the downtown. Now, I've heard many times that it's too late, can't be done, it's illegal, it would draw lawsuits. And I speak tonight to clarify that that's not true. When you have an existing zoning use and you want to withdraw it through rezoning, you have a phase out period. So that is going to be the new word that I'm using from now until this issue is resolved. We need to have a phase out, which is an established, fair, safe way to change zoning so that you give people notice that a change is coming. Let's work together. Let's rezone to phase out cannabis dispensaries in our downtown. Thank you.
Bridget?
Hello, I'm Bridget Suma and I live at 118 Fairmont Avenue.
Hear you back.
Oh, hello. Is that-
I don't think the mic's working.
Oh, maybe it's not working.
I don't.
I'll try to
You have a
speak
mic that
louder.
works?
You have to speak into it.
Change your mic up there, man. It was working
It's
before.
not on. It should be on.
But you have to speak a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on now. I'm Bridget Suma and I live at 118 Fairmont Avenue. Not only am I a resident, I also have the joy and responsibility of leading Riverview Nursery School, which has been a bedrock of this community for almost 40 years, and where we guide little hearts and minds every day. When I was interviewed for the director position at Riverview, I told the board that I had to take the job because I knew someone had to protect this special school in our community. I'm here tonight as a continuation of that pledge. Nyack is a huge piece of why our school is so special, and we need to protect that. At Riverview, we use Nyack as an additional classroom resource. Our students take walking trips to the farmer's market, the post office, the library, Curriella's, Strawberry Place, the list goes on. On a recent morning, I walked to the post office to hang up stamps that our current 4-year-olds had designed, and I had to walk through a huge cloud of pot smoke on South Broadway at 9:30 in the morning. Fortunately, I didn't have children with me on that day, but it gave me pause as we had just sent home permission slips for the children to walk there a few days later. How can I, as a protector of this amazing school and our children, send 2, 3, and 4-year-olds into our village, knowing that there will be an increased exposure to cannabis smoke and the sale of cannabis? This is more than just physical proximity to our building. Increasing the number of dispensaries, medical or recreational, will limit how safe and comfortable I and our parents are allowing our children to walk through the village. How can this village attract and retain new families that will also bring money to support our school as well as local businesses if they don't want to bring their families downtown? I'm here tonight, not just as a preschool director, but as someone who deeply cares about the kind of village we are building for our children who will hopefully become long-term residents. These kids look to us, to every adult, for safety, guidance, and example. A cannabis dispensary, no matter how well regulated, doesn't belong steps away from where children learn to read, share, and dream. We work so hard to teach them healthy choices and to protect their developing brains and bodies. Please, I just one sentence. Please, let's not let business convenience outweigh childhood safety and the genuine fabric of this village. Our kids deserve better. They deserve a village that seriously considers what is best for them.
Brett?
Chris Shalaba, Cole Street, Nyack. Just two quick points, no,
We can't hear you back.
You have to really speak into it, yourself up.
Chris Shalaba, Nyack. Just the smoke shops have come up in past meetings and how out of control those are and, we're trying to shut those down. We don't have control of that. And like give it a take, police get involved and it's a big problem. And now I'm seeing that we're opening more stores. So what's to say that those won't get out of control, especially the medicinal. Are we gonna monitor every single medicinal sale? Who knows what they're gonna be doing? It's just, we can't control what's already there and we're bringing more of it in. Second point is I've heard, popular argument is weed is the same as alcohol. They're both legal, legal products. We have a drug problem in town. We don't have an alcohol sale problem in town. Nobody is disputing liquor stores. We need to control drugs. So to compare, I just want to point out that weed to alcohol is not a fair argument. And I've heard that often. Thank you.
Dominic?
Hello, Dominic Villa. Monday evening, Joe and Joe were at the planning board meeting. And the planning board essentially rejected the local law and is requesting the DMU to be pulled back or pulled out of the law of the expansion, which is quite dramatic. And for those of you who weren't there, the planning board, Kathy Prieston, was passionate about her comments. The effects on children are real. It's an issue that can't be denied. And so where we're putting these dispensaries is right where most exposure to children. So it's hard to understand how it's justified, and we've been talking about it. And since day one, we know where the line is for legal action. It's not leases, it's not buying a building. If I was to buy a building and I want to build out my building and the zoning changed before my approvals, it's tough luck. It's too bad, I can't sue anyone. And neither can dispensary. So they can get a license from the state, they can put their application in, but it's not until they get approval, that's the line. So you have the medical dispensary in place, approved. And I think that was rushed purposely. It didn't need to be rushed. There needed to be more thought about it. All the thought we're talking about right now. The planning board specifically said, increase the distances as much as possible. And I'm impressed with that. I'm very happy about that. And you reached out to them for advice and recommendation, and they flat out rejected that proposed law. So I think you have to rewrite it, rethink it, and come back with a better law. And that's essentially it.
No, you don't.
I'm not gonna.
We counted it up, there's 370, 965. Yeah, there are. Counting it by hand.
Madam President. Good evening. I've shared many times that cannabis dispensary distance laws exist, among other reasons, to reduce youth exposure. Placing dispensaries in downtown Nyack, in the very area where our kids walk, gather, and grow up, directly contradicts that goal. It's not theoretical concern, it's real, and it affects families here every day. At this point, I'm not trying to persuade you of my position, you already know it.
I would like to reiterate, though, that when the board expanded zoning to allow dispensaries in 2022, two public hearings were held. At first, on September 22nd, only 2 members of the public spoke in favor of the change. At the second, on October 13th, just 1 person spoke, the same individual who had already spoken at the first hearing. In effect, only 2 unique voices from the public weighed in on this major zoning decision. Therefore, the claim that this was thoroughly deliberated with public input doesn't match the reality we're seeing today. The overwhelming majority of voices speaking up now were never part of that conversation and were asking to be heard. Mayor Rand recently responded to me on Facebook stating, "Chaya, yes, the board wants a dispensary downtown. This is how we voted 3 years ago, and that's how we would vote today. We are not going to change that." Respectfully, that is not how leadership works. True leadership means listening and adapting, especially when the community doesn't agree with you. Leadership isn't about standing by decisions made in a different moment under different conditions. It's about meeting the moment we're in now. It's about hearing your community, especially when the voices grow louder and more unified by the day. On Monday night, the 9th Planning Board took a strong and unanimous stand against the proposed local law on new adult use cannabis dispensaries. They made it clear, the proposal doesn't go far enough to protect our community. Board members questioned whether any dispensaries belong in the DMU district, given its proximity to where children regularly gather. They also reinforced a concern we've raised from the beginning. New York State's minimum regulations are significantly weaker than those in other states. Simply meeting those bare minimums isn't enough for Nyack. Our village deserves stronger, more thoughtful protections that reflect the values and priorities of this community. The planning board also acknowledged the over 1,000 petition signatures and letters from community members calling them meaningful public feedback. As one board member put it, the public outcry is real, the concern is real. This kind of statement from a key village body, one appointed to advise and offer oversight, should not be ignored. It affirms that our concerns are not fringe, not exaggerated, and certainly not baseless. Even more importantly, the planning board addressed a legal argument that's been repeated often, that the village cannot change the law now due to fear of a lawsuit. But the discussion with the planning board clarified that there is no legal liability unless formal approval by the village has been granted to a dispensary applicant. A signed lease or even a state license is not the same as village approval, and that has not been given to the third proposed recreational dispensary in Communal Kitchen. This third dispensary can still be stopped, and the zoning can still be changed to keep future dispensaries out of our downtown, a place where our children live, learn, and gather every day. And let me be clear, this is about all of our children. Black, brown, white, every child in this community uses our downtown and will be exposed. Protecting them isn't about politics or race. It's about our shared duty as adults to put kids first and create a community where all children can thrive. Every child in this community shares this space and will be affected by what we allow to happen here. Please change the zoning so that any future dispensaries cannot operate in our downtown. Okay. Raglan?
Mayor Rand and the board, I just want to thank you for your service.
Microphone.
Mayor Rand and the board, I just want to thank you for your service to the city. My name is John Samuel. I'm the lead pastor of Ignite Church. I'm a local community leader, through this church, and we have been in Nyack for about 2 years, and we, as those have come before us, we stand against this dispensary coming into downtown. I've been youth leader in Mount Vernon for several years, seeing the effects of addiction. Now that I moved up to Rockland County, I work also by vocation as a physician assistant in a local urgent care, and I see this firsthand where young people in their 20s and teens, addicted to whether it's marijuana or rape or all these things like that, all these vices that come in. And I see their effects on people, aside from a spiritual aspect, on the physical aspect. And so I'm recommending that you do, come against these dispensaries because it will have a toll on these children, and it will have a toll on many people in this community. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Deborah. I'm also part of Ignite Church. I was not expecting this tonight, so I have nothing, but I've been in this area for 25 years. And Nyack has been very much a part of our time here. My husband's a jazz musician, so he's at Maureen's a lot. Playing, and I have had community here throughout my life. And it seems so incongruent with the community to walk by a pop store. It's just like, what? What's this about? Why would we want a pop store as a focal point? There's so many, I mean, coming here on the weekends and seeing all the people that come from all over, the tourists, to see all the boutiques and to shop and to eat, and that's this thriving community. And suddenly we're walking by a pot store, and we have children and families, and the thought of normalizing pot stores in the center of a village like Nyack, which is truly the only village of its kind, right? There's nothing like Nyack in the whole county. There's nothing like Nyack in Westchester. It's a very unique community. It's a family community. And it's the few fringe people. It's so many families here walking around with children, the fringe people that would desire to have a pot store in their downtown seems so minute. And I mean, I don't know if any of you know anyone that has I know a young man, Silvio, from this community since he was a little boy. And he's not with us anymore. He died because of an overdose. And I don't know how many of you know children in the community that this has happened to, but he grew up in this community and he's no longer with us. Thank you for your attention.
I just want to make a comment about that one part. I actually went to school with Silvio. It wasn't weed that killed him, and there was a lot of trauma behind what happened to his life. So I'd really appreciate you not use my classmate in that manner. Thank you.
Excuse me?
He was my classmate. I went to school with him. I knew him since elementary school.
Yes.
So I can tell you, I know exactly what happened in that circumstance, and what you're saying, you're not making a correlation. And I really appreciate you not using a classmate like that, because there was a lot more there to that story than you know.
Well, I'm very good friends with Katrina and Jose.
Right.
I actually know.
Yeah, I do as well.
I just know that growing up in a community, it makes a difference in the community, what children are exposed to.
And those issues were there when we were in school.
Pardon me?
They were there when we were in school. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Can you expound on that? Those issues were there when we were in school?
I'm not going
No,
to
we're not
expound
gonna
on
say
it because it was someone's personal story.
I couldn't, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to expound on it because
Doreen.
Next up,
I'm nothing prepared. My name's Doreen. I just have a personal testimony. So I suffered through drug addiction, and marijuana, cannabis was the gateway. So I believe that is a gateway drug for children, and I started very young. So I just feel it's a disservice to our children and our youth to have so many dispensaries and so much available to them, that we should be protecting them and shielding them from being exposed. Thank you.
Al?
Check it.
yeah, you're good.
We're good. Hey, good evening. Donna, Natalie, I'm always, Joe's eyes, always get me, but everyone here matters, right? Everyone has a voice here. And
you know, look at this room. This is your community. I mean, there's this wall between us, but we bump into you guys all the time on both sides, we're one community. And they're all here tonight on this issue. So thanks, everyone who's here. I was touched, I posted on Facebook on this issue a few times. And someone wrote this, and this touched me. I'm just gonna read it, I'm not gonna say his name. But this person writes, I think one of the biggest concerns for me is how many of us who grew up in Nyack and attended the public schools have seen our classmates and friends lost to substance abuse. For many of us, the schools are a common ground where our stories began and sadly where many of them ended. Alcohol and other drugs have played a significant role in the loss of lives in our community. I know this isn't always an easy topic to bring up, but we can't ignore how many Nyack kids have overdosed with addiction, often starting with marijuana. I'll just leave it there.
That's the end of the list for this segment, this public hearing, but if anybody else wants to speak, please come up.
My name is Alan. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Alan Eigenman from Bratzo. I'm a drug dealer. I sell booze to people. That's my job. Food and. But at the end of the day, my question to the board, how much the village is gonna make on drug dealer? Because basically it is a drug dealer business. They sell marijuana, which today is obviously legal, but is still a drug. They cannot deposit their money in the bank account because it's not a legal drug. So you tell me, can you tell us, everybody, how much the village will make on that?
You mean, I'm sorry, you're
How
asking.
much money the village will make by giving a permit to open a drugstore? No, excuse me, not a drugstore anymore. Okay, illegal drugstore. How much the village will make on that?
We don't give.
You don't get money?
We don't.
From the illegal drugstores?
Illegal drugstores, no.
I'm talking about for what you agree to.
For the legal recreational dispensaries, we get 3%.
I heard in the village, we have 2 stores who are illegal, they're still open.
Yes.
And now you're planning to open 3 more. Who gonna be legal? But how much money the village is gonna make on that? You see, everybody talks about.
You're mixing up.
I don't mix up nothing.
You're mixing up things.
Let him take his time, his public comment. Yeah, finish your public comment. It's your time, sir.
I'm just gonna tell you that you're talking about the smoke shops, which are.
No, forget about the smoke shop. The smoke shop I know. I'm talking about the dispensary. How much the village will gonna make on the dispensary?
Alright.
You know what? At the end of the day, you guys gonna make money based on the revenue of, sorry. My lawyer called me when I talk to you. You gonna make money based on the revenue of the business, or you gonna make money?
I'm not sure if this will answer your question. You're out of time, but I will address your question as far as I understand it. For the recreational legal dispensaries, the village collects a sales tax of about 3% of all sales. On the illegal smoke shops, we don't collect any sales tax other than the sales tax that's generated by any business. From the medicinal dispensary that would be opening in Starbucks, we don't receive any sales tax either. So it's 3%. And we say you guys, I take offense to that because none of that money goes to the village.
I understand.
And offset
I'll
the
say you
burden of
guys because
taxpayers.
you're more than one person.
Well, you're saying you guys, but what you mean is the village, which means
The
the
village,
taxpayers
yeah,
collect that
absolutely.
money, which helps offset the other costs of the village, including the cannabis tax, we've allocated this year $200,000 of what we expect to receive from the cannabis sales tax toward youth programs and education and things like that, which would otherwise not take place in the absence of the legal dispensaries. So if that answers your questions. I'll let you sit back down. Who's next?
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah. Testing, yep, okay. Hi, I'm Stephanie, a resident of Upper Nyack on Kuiper Drive. I don't need that much time, I wonder, because I really don't know exactly how this works, this whole forum, but I've heard so many people give their heart and souls into this. And when I look at this room, I'm like, our voices are just kind of met with, I don't know, do I get to hear from any of you about what's said? What is this? How does this work? Like, because I'm new at this, right? I want to know what the responses are to the residents of this community that are speaking from their heart about worrying about our children. I want to know, why is there a wall there?
There's no wall.
No, well, we're giving you your respect of letting you talk.
I'm
What about all these people? Don't they get
We'll
any?
address our perspective when we're done with public comment.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Could we please do that and address all of these concerns, all of these things that have been prepared? This is not, we're asking, like, we care about your children too. This isn't just about us. So I want to hear about you and your perspective, like the human side of it from all of you.
You will.
Please.
You will. Yeah, absolutely.
I look forward to it because I think everyone deserves that for how much passion has been put into this. And people have a lot better things to do than come out at night after night after night and meeting after meeting. This is for the love of like Nyack.
Yeah.
And these people deserve an answer.
Well, I just want to stop just to say, I find the idea that I spend about 40 hours a week for $18,000 a year working on this job. And I come to these meetings and I try to be respectful of people giving public comment, but the idea that what I do is not for the love of Nyack is offensive to me. Your time is up. You can sit down. Next up.
Look up and look at people in the face and not like down on your phone.
I've paid attention to everybody here. I can tell you what they've taken. I've been taking notes of what people say. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Brewer.
A little closer to the.
My name is Jonathan Brewer. I live on 11 Kolb Street in Nyack. I'm here in my personal capacity and I'm offering my personal views. I do want to offer a comment I wasn't necessarily expecting to offer based on one of the last speakers about the broader enforcement issue. And I know that he elicited comment from some of you on the board saying that these are two distinct things. But I do want to just say we are in a universe of legalization and decriminalization where this is an experiment. And when we're talking about the opening of legal dispensaries, the question of what to do about businesses that are masquerading as tobacconists and stationery stores, but are obviously the source of illegal marijuana and narcotics in our community, is a relevant one. And it's a concern that I think informs a lot of the public comment about the minimum distancing requirements. So I understand there's not a whole lot of political will to address that particular part of the issue.
Not true.
Not true.
Let him finish.
Because your responsibilities are not necessarily the broader county enforcement responsibilities. But that said, I do think that the anecdotes that have been at past meetings of this body have demonstrated from local business owners that they see on a regular basis in an anecdotal way illegal marijuana and narcotics transactions. And that's informing a lot of the anger from the community that you all are obviously perceiving here tonight. I do want to offer a brief comment on the proposal that's before you this evening. I don't think that a distinction between the medical dispensary and the recreational dispensaries is necessary, or that it makes particular sense in the context of the dispensaries that we're discussing in downtown Nyack. Obviously, at past meetings, we've discussed how the medical dispensary has an option potentially among multiple different locations to convert to recreational. And notwithstanding, I'll finish up very briefly if I may, notwithstanding the fact that it's currently classified as a prospective medical dispensary, the way this is written, you may leave yourself open to 2 adult recreational facilities within the minimum distance requirements that are currently contemplated the way it's written. So I would just ask you to re-examine that distinction in the current language, because I don't think that it creates the outcomes that even you may have anticipated. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, please come up.
My name is Mary Alice Barna. I've lived in Nyack now for about 50+ years. Raised 5 children here in Nyack. We enjoyed the wonderful community, parents and children all along. And I'm here to appeal for the children. It was just recently spoken, and I had thought of it too, that when I was growing up and I was taught and learned that marijuana was the gateway drug. And that has not changed. And we are also facing such a horrific experience with children dying from fentanyl. And fentanyl, I don't know if that's the gateway drug, but I would say that marijuana and other drugs invite children to start, experimenting and so on and so forth. My appeal is, think of the children in Nyack. I have grandchildren here. They love going to Temptations. Temptations is right up the street from where this place is going to be. And it supposes where this dispensary will be. The children are totally exposed to this back and forth. It's like oh, be a candy store. I can't wait till I can, be 18 years old or whatever. But I just think that we have to think about, there are children, there are next generations. And I don't think we're treating them well when they can be easily exposed. I'm just really surprised that we're allowing this. And I think it's way more serious than we're taking it when we're thinking about our children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Mallow from Upper Nyack, North Midland. Mayor Rand, you had said that you work 40 hours a week for $18,000 a year for the love of this community. I am very, very curious if there are any conflicts of interest on this board, either directly with you or with any of you.
Excuse me, we can't hear what you're saying.
I want to know if there's any.
You have to put the mic up right to your mouth, right to your
I
mouth.
want to know if there's any conflicts of interest, whether with you, any of your family members, any of your friends, any money that may be going directly or indirectly to you personally.
To answer your question, any conflicts of interest would have been raised already and would have already been disclosed. And if anybody had a conflict of interest, they would have recused themselves from all these discussions.
I'd like to know from each one of you.
No, I
And
just
you
answered for
say-
you. I just answered for you. You don't get,
And
you don't,
each
you
one
don't, you don't get
say-
to query the board, sir. I answered your question. If there were conflicts, the conflicts would have been raised, the conflicts would have been disclosed.
Doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound.
Well, you can spin whatever conspiracy theory you want.
My name is Dr. Steve Levy. I started working with Phoenix House in New York City in 1966. I ran the Rockland County Crack Cocaine Program for 3 years with Reverend George Dory. I was the first director of the Nyack Recovery Center in 1989. What gets lost in this is what cannabis is. It's a plant with 360 chemicals, 61 of them are cannabinoids. It's a sedative drug when it's smoked. it's a stimulant drug when it's smoked, and it's hallucinogenic when it's smoked. Now, just like you have proof in alcohol, 30 proof liquor, 80% proof liquor, the cannabis that's being sold on the street and in these stores is much stronger than it was when I got into the field all that time back. And the gummies, and it's coming in a lot of shapes and forms. One of the problems, and this doesn't speak directly to the number of dispensaries, but any dispensary can sell to a legitimate customer. You know what the resale on the street is for this stuff? You know how lucrative it is? I don't think we want our village, despite the fact that some of these substances are legal. We have to have a secondary concern, and everybody's been emphasizing the children. Well, of course, we all have our kids and my grandkids, but it's also about adults who have cannabis disorder, use disorder, who have psychosis. I had a patient suffering from schizophrenia a number of years ago, who was doing very well on his antipsychotic. This kid smoked 2 joints, went home and beat his mother up, and she was in the hospital for 6 months because we discovered through these kinds of episodes the dangers of mixing drugs. My last comment is we not only have an issue about the power and the corruption and the kinds of things that substances do to people, but half the population that I've worked with, and I ran the dual diagnosis unit at Fort Wayne Psychiatric Hospital for 4 years. And I ran a unit that had substance abusers, alcoholics and drug addicts, who had a host of other psychiatric diagnostic disorders. So this is a very complex issue. And I just wanted to raise that this is part of what we need to be concerned about. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Bell. I'm probably gonna be the most boring one up here. Just gonna start some straight facts, teen use rises. Use rises when dispensaries are nearby. The odds of teen use goes up to 16%. Crime increases too in Denver. Research by the Journal of Urban Economics showed that property crime rates went up within 300 feet of dispensaries. According to the Institute of Highway Safety, there's a 6% rise in crash rates, especially near dispensary areas. Then we can talk about the tax revenue, which is true. In Colorado and California, they both saw an early boom, but then the revenue flattened. And then the smaller town areas that bought into this had to pay more for policing, zoning, and community education. This is according to the Colorado Department of Revenue in California as well. The jobs that are created are there, but they're low wage, short term, don't really produce much, and really high turnover. I understand we want to go this way, and I'm not against, weed itself. And I know that dispensary is going to go up where it needs to go up, but I think that the one in communal kitchen is just an overall really bad idea. At some point, maybe we're not all going to be here. Maybe we will. Maybe some will, fly off to Florida, but someone's going to have to pay for that. And just thought worth a mention.
Anybody else? Do I need a motion to close it, or we still keep it up?
At some point, you should close the public.
Okay, then we have our own board discussion on the resolution.
Certainly, but just bear in mind, once you close the public hearing, you cannot hear any further public testimony from.
Okay, is there anybody else want to speak?
Many public officials either, other than your attorney. So you can only hear from.
We can have our normal conversation.
Yeah, wait, on the motions on.
Once you close the public hearing, the record is closed. So.
Yeah, all right.
If you have a question for the village administrator, no. Village clerk.
All right, so we'll leave it open.
There's someone here that wants to speak.
Come on up.
We do close public comment, which is an informal.
All right, we got.
Message that you're done with public comment, you're gonna discuss this amongst yourselves and perhaps from village clerk, village administrator, building inspector, so on.
After you.
Hi, my name is Rob Jeffrey. I live in South Nyack, and but I feel, as we discussed once, definitely a client of Nyack. This is what I identify as my town. I grew up in a very religious household. I'm 43 years old. I've never tried a cannabis product. I'd actually kind of like to one day see what it's like. But I guess my one point is I can do that simply by going to Treehouse Cannabis. That seems sufficient for the village. Keep things in moderation, keep things on a common sense level. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else? All right, then I am gonna close public comments so we can have a discussion with the board and the village administrator if we need to about this issue. So, for the purpose of the resolution that then articulates this legislation, do we close do I discuss the resolution as part of the public hearing? Or do we do it after? We make a motion on we can make the motion on the resolution, right? So,
Either or.
all right, so let's, help me out with the resolution number on this?
6.17, resolution number 2025-80.
But right before.
It was 80.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor, right before you're ready to make a vote, if that should happen tonight. Right at that moment is what
Close
I
the
always
public hearing.
recommend to close the public.
Okay,
Then it's like a jury going
all right,
into.
all right, so per, whatever, what was that the number? Was it 80?
yes.
That's the renumbered, okay. So resolution 80, which is, it's one of our action items, to modify the proximity regulations regarding adult use retail, recreational medical cannabis dispensaries. Can I get this on the table?
Second.
All right, let's have a discussion about it. I'll let the rest of you start off and I'll conclude after you've staged your piece. Anybody wanna go first? No. All right, someone's gotta go first or else I'll
go first.
All right, Joe, thank you.
I always do.
Bring that mic up.
There, thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Thank you, everybody, for your public comments, and I personally have listened very attentively to each and every one of you, so it's not a question of somebody raised that, where are the village board members, where are they, what are they? It's going in, not only this meeting, but a lot of other meetings that we've heard, and I've had personal conversations with a number of you that's been involved, so I am very aware of the situation. This is a difficult one. It really is, because the village board opted in to cannabis sales in 2022. And also decided to extend the area of dispensaries to the DMU 1 and then the DMU 2. Apart from the commercial corridor, CC zone. The points that you bring up are, I completely understand. But I have a duty to the village, fiduciary obligation, and make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. Now, we're not gonna be able to opt out. Once we opt in, that's it, it's done.
All right, public comments over.
Look, I was very respectful to you guys, so please be respectful to me. So we can't opt out. We've changed the zoning to DMU 1 and DMU 2. There have been a number of applications and we cannot roll that back. What we can do is we can backstop the proximity regulation that currently exists in the OCN, which is a 2,000-foot radius. And you see, I don't have to tell you all of that, you all know. At some point, OCN will start rolling these things back, and then we'll be in a situation where we're not gonna have 1 or 2 dispensaries, we'll have a dispensary on every street, every block, and we don't want that. Furthermore, the medical dispensary at Starbucks they did state that it is not their intention to convert to a recreational dispensary. But if all the others, if the additional dispensary up the street at 162 Main Street is blocked, then there's no reason that the Starbucks dispensary will not convert to a recreational. They'll have the market. They'll have the market. It's just dollars and cents. And then the whole point of not having a retail recreational dispensary smack dab in the middle of the village will be lost. That'll be it. So we also have another option. Another option is not to do anything. And if we don't do anything, then we are at the whims of the OCM and any changes that they make. So this has been very carefully constructed, this resolution, to allow not to have the distance of 2,000 foot radius for a retail recreational and a 1,000 foot for a medical dispensary. I don't see any problem with that. I really don't. I know that you are. Okay, well, look, I've been, again, please be respectful. I've been respectful of your opinions and please be respectful of mine. But I'm just one of 5. Thank you.
No, because as we can see, when you do offer your opinion, it's met with scorn and. No, because, no, I am, first of all, I am doing my job, and every time I'm speaking up against it, it's not an opinion that you like, and this is what I get. And that's why I'm not interested. No, don't make that face because that's exactly what you get.
To me all the time. You look at your phone, you don't even listen when you speak.
Actually, I'm always listening to what you're saying, Dominic. I'm always listening to what you're saying. But anyway, no. You've had enough to say. Stop, please. Please. Look. My opinion, I don't agree with what you guys are saying. Okay, I'm fine, but look, the Starbucks is not an ideal location. I could choose, I wouldn't have it there. I'm not gonna pretend like that's not a real thing. I don't actually have an issue with dispensaries downtown. Why? Because we already have a thriving illegal black market before the smoke shops got here, has been here. It's been here since I was a kid. The same people who are concerned about losing friends to overdose addiction, it's because they're getting it from this illegal market. I want to see people be able to purchase these products safely. And a legal dispensary is the way to do it. The same illegal market that we're still concerned about targets your children. It does. You guys have constantly said there's an issue with the middle school. That issue is not going to go away until the illegal market is gone. And it's not going to go away if you don't give people an option on where to purchase legally. That being said, like I said, see, every time I've said my opinion on this, it's met with scorn. It's met with the terms bullshit. You want to leave this in the CC where there's a black and brown community.
No,
once again. No, it's not about because I've asked you multiple times to speak to people of color. And Chaya, I know who you speak to, but I still don't see any of them here. Where are they?
I'm trying, I'm trying. I can't get people to come, but it doesn't mean that I'm not.
Yeah, I know. Have you spoken to anyone else? Have you spoken to anyone? But here we go. No, this is.
All right.
You have about this, and I'm trying to tell you that this is my opinion.
25
This
years
is my
has
opinion.
failed this town consistently.
All right,
And you continue to do it.
Well, then we'll.
You're just a doctor speak to you and you guys are calling us racist. That's how smart you are.
And hence the opinion not being brought there, so.
Social justice as a political.
Kids downtown, all of the kids, it doesn't matter what's happening.
All right,
And
all the
they're-
comment is done. All the comments done.
This is why I don't want to comment.
She asked your question and so you responded, which was, she had opened up to get your response, but
So,
the comment's
yeah,
over.
if
You have anything on
This
that?
is suddenly a cop out, that's
Yeah.
whatever. That's your opinion here, I'll have that opinion.
In favor of social justice.
I want an illegal market to go.
You didn't
away.
get to respond.
Take the market.
No,
That's what you do.
it's not expanding the market. It's not expanding. You know what, Dominic? We don't need to have this discussion because once again, as Joe said, public comment is over. You've asked for our opinion. This is my opinion. You don't have to like my opinion. You don't have to like my opinion. This is my opinion. I am not, like I said, do I think that the Starbucks is not a great location? Yeah, I don't. I don't think it's a great location, but I don't have issues with us.
Something about it.
What we're
Do
doing,
something
what we're
about it.
voting in, keeping the backs up of the 2000 rules.
Just in reaction.
You can pose your question at the next public comment portion of the meeting.
It's in response to what?
No, I understand that, but we're not at that point at this point. So you have to wait till next public comment.
Anything else?
I'm done.
You know, it's just, it makes me not even want to say anything. The thing is that, I mean, I don't like this. You know, we're up here, you're there, but we're the same, we're all in this community. So if you guys are stating your opinions, which everybody can, right? We could still say what we think, then nobody needs to be attacking anybody, and that I don't like. This is just not necessary, and it's not going to serve anybody well. All right, so having said that, when I was on the board in 2022 and we opted into this, I agreed to do it. When we did it and we had more than one meeting, I did not see a lot of people with this much compassion about or passion about doing it or not and why we should or why we shouldn't. So,
all right.
Okay, can I just finish, please? It makes it very difficult, right?
We can do the meeting without you here.
So a couple of things here. Number one, I wasn't at the first couple of meetings earlier for personal reasons this year. When I heard about the Starbucks thing going in, and I could say, and I know that I'm not alone, is that location ideal for that? Absolutely not. It is downtown. I realize it's in between Temptations and also the pizza store where a lot of people's kids go. Yes, I am a parent. No one riding around a bike as a teenager is a man, but as a parent, I understand your concern. One of the things I think and the other thing is we have way too many illegal smoke shops around that I am at the top of the list, would love to see all those closed down because that does not help this issue that's going on. And when we opted into this, did we know that that was going to be approved, all these smoke shops to open and then to sell illegally? Absolutely not. They were not in the picture then.
Approved.
And not approved, right. So in terms of cannabis, I think of a couple of things. Number one, I love that Treetop is where they are. I understand that's outside the area. Everybody seemed very comfortable it being there. Another one going into town, I am not totally opposed to it, but I am here to listen to, I know that you guys are spending a lot of time, as we did as well, on the zoning and everything, so I'm still open to listening to that. I'm not saying that, you know, it's a done deal or not. I'm just trying to hear everybody. You elected us to do that. I am trying to do that, whether I agree or you agree with me or not. I am giving you that respect to kind of listen to everything that you have to say because you spent a lot of time doing it. I think that a dispensary as the one in Treetop, it is more, I think parental things have to come into here, right? I'm sure everybody, I hope, talks to their kids about what's going on. Not anybody could go in a dispensary. Those are more safeguarded. I know there's a whole fentanyl thing and everything. I mean, everyone's known someone, whether it's a friend or family members that's been touched by stuff like that. That's a very difficult thing. Also coming into making a decision like this. I'm still listening, but I will not stand for the disrespect for anybody up here or for any of us doing that to you either. We're all human beings. Let's respect each other and let's try to see if we could figure something out. Is all I'm asking right now, is I continue to listen. But let's not yell over each other. Let's just respect each other. There's enough disrespect and anger and everything going on in the world as it is. And, you know, I just don't want to deal with that. So that's all I have to say, I think.
I typically don't speak, I can listen, digest things.
We can't hear you back.
I'm sorry. I typically don't speak on these topics, I just listen, because I think listening is the way you learn. I don't do discourse, I'm not gonna be the one that's gonna yell and argue and stop talking. I am a parent, I definitely hear you, I respect what you're saying. I don't want our town to be a pot town, right? I get what you're saying, I hear you. We've all can agree that Starbucks is not the ideal place for this dispensary. At this point, it's what it is for us right now. We're now talking about communal kitchen. Okay.
You can do this.
I heard what the planning board said. We asked for their opinion, we heard it, we do need to discuss it, we do need to go back and just listen to what, you know, how we can meet everybody halfway. Right, we all need to feel comfortable, safe for ourselves and our kids. We're all taxpayers, right, so we want our NIAC to thrive. And what that means right now is going back and looking at, hey, we asked for their opinion, this is what they came back and said, now what do we do with this? So we're not voting on anything tonight. I heard every last one of you. I listened to every last one of you. So I don't want anybody to feel that we're on an island on our own when we don't talk back. The reason why we don't is so that we don't do discourse, right? So because two people can't talk at the same time, because that means somebody's not listening. That's just common sense, right? So right now, we have this at the table. It is the most difficult decision to make because it affects everybody, good, bad, and indifferent. Dollars to dollars, pride to pride, pride to pride. I listened to this doctor talk and I'm like, wow, he's right, right? Everything he said was correct. But at the end of the day, we also have to be respectful for what we're bringing into our towns. We're talking about legal drugs versus illegal drugs. That's a whole different ballgame that we're talking about. Something that we really don't have what we consider control over because that needs to be what the police needs to do. If we're seeing it and we know it's there, report it. So that we can shut it down. But we coming here talking about it, yeah, we all know that it's happening. We just now need to basically report it so we can shut it down. But when it comes to legal matters of the dispensaries, we do have something to talk about. And that's the only thing we can regulate right now is how we can move forward of what was said for us, the opinions of the planning board that we asked for, your opinions, and how we can move forward for the business owners at the end of the day, also have a say in this. So this is not the end of the road. We hear you guys. We respect you guys, and we want to make NIAC the same NIAC that I grew up in, as great as it is. Okay, just to be fair.
If you want to speak, okay. I'm going to ask that the resolution be modified so that the proximity will be 2,000 feet. Flat, to drop the 1,000 foot between all dispensaries. I'm wary about the legal ramifications. I'm very worried. So I'm going to turn to our village attorney, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be comfortable giving you that kind of counsel in an open meeting.
Okay.
You've heard my opinion either privately through emails, maybe at prior meetings.
At the planning board, you said that there was not any.
In my legal opinion.
Yeah.
Navigating through, and I will go out on a limb here and say the smartest land use zoning attorney, municipal attorney in the state would have difficulty navigating through these regulations, which you cannot get any guidance on because these regulations, these cannabis laws are so new. There's very little, if any, I would say none, judicial opinion or case law to give any guidance. There's no opinions from the New York State Attorney General to give any definitive guidance on a lot of these little issues that pop up. I'm not gonna go into little, whack-a-mole issues that pop up on every single aspect that we're talking about. My legal opinion is that the state used the word preempt very clearly in these regulations. That state regulations preempt any municipality's own regulations that contradict what is in the state's regulations. So that's number one. It does say a municipality that's opted in still can exercise time, place, and manner. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the state, of course, doesn't define it. So you have to start with the preemption first, which talks about all these proximity regulations from the state regulations, the 2,000 feet, 500 feet, 200 feet, depending on what the different land uses are, whether it's schools or houses of worship. It's got these different proximity regulations. That, in my legal opinion, is preemptive. You cannot make it, in my legal opinion, you couldn't make it closer. So if the state says it's gotta be a minimum of 2,000 feet, whatever that distance is between certain types of dispensaries, certain types of uses, or 500 feet, 200 feet, you cannot make it closer because the state said we preempt this area. Can you make it? I spoke about this the other night. I spoke about it more than once, I'm sure. Can you make it further than 2,000 feet? If you opted in, I would say yes, but this is where there's no guidance. Because if you opted in, you can't make it so much a far distance that you're essentially basically saying, yeah, we opted in, but we didn't think, now we're thinking maybe we shouldn't have opted in. So we're gonna make it, instead of 2,000 feet, we're gonna make it 4,000 feet or 5 or something else. You're essentially trying to circumvent the opting in, and you might get yourselves into trouble there. So can I give you a definitive, how much further than, even though this question hasn't been raised tonight, I've heard it over the past couple of months, can we make it further than what the state says? Yes. How much further? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Okay, but I can tell you this, you cannot, again, I don't want to repeat what I just said, you cannot make it so that you're essentially prohibiting additional dispensaries. Okay, we have 1 or 2 now, let's make it so much that we're still opted in, but there's never gonna be more than 2 dispensaries. You're in uncharted waters, okay? I can't give you a definitive answer.
The 2,000 foot, it talks about recreational. And does it refer to medical, or is there
I do believe it's
a distinction?
There is a distinction, I think that 2,000 foot, my reading of it is it applies to both, but there's a
The
provision.
state law, you're talking about the
State law, there's a provision that says that distance for medicinal was repealed as of
2023 December.
Yeah, December of 23.
So that was repealed.
But there's another provision in a separate section that makes reference to it again. So I think it was an oversight. Did they mean to repeal it? Did they not mean to repeal it? I can't tell you.
So in effect, the repealing of the proximity distances for
medicinal.
Okay.
There is definite language that says that it's repealed, but then there's a different provision which mentions the 2,000 feet again without mentioning the repeal.
Let's assume that the repeal stands, right?
Okay.
So if we enact a 2,000 foot proximity for all types of dispensaries, is that legal?
Arguably, it's not, because if the state made clear, we are preempting pretty much everything about these regulations. There are exceptions to the preemption which don't relate to the proximity. You're acting in contrary to state law.
So in effect.
So the word, whether it's legal or not, is not really the correct word. The word that sometimes used is constitutional or not. You're acting contrary to the state preemptive law, that would be not constitutional.
So we're back at square one here, because if we say that we want a 2,000 foot, or let's say 1,000 foot or 2,000 foot, distance between quote unquote dispensaries, how do we apply that to medical dispensaries? Let's say, for instance, Starbucks, the medical dispensary at Starbucks comes in, and we said 2,000 foot. But then maybe a medical dispensary will want to establish itself at, I don't know, Village Market, right? Could they do that? if we had the 2,000 foot,
Not under our zoning code, they couldn't, but again, would our zoning code provision that says must be a minimum of 2,000 feet between all types of cannabis dispensaries, including medicinal. Someone might challenge that, who wants to put in a medicinal dispensary. And say, no, your law is contrary to state law that preempts that area, which arguably was repealed in December of 23 for medicinal cannabis dispensary. So, we're, like I keep repeating it, but we're in.
It's a murky legal area.
It's a bit of uncharted waters. This is a new body of law.
Yeah.
And I would,
and it's a risk.
I would invite you to try to find a lawyer in the state that can give you definitive answers on some of these questions. And I'm not in no way suggesting I'm anywhere close to being an expert on it, but it is a convoluted, difficult area of laws and regulations. Lots of phrases are not defined. It's just a difficult law but one thing that is crystal clear is what I started this opinion with is the state intended, and it says it in the language of the statutes and regulations, to preempt pretty much everything relating to cannabis. Pretty much everything. Again, time, place, and matter. What is my opinion on time, place, and matter? Zoning. So even if you opted in, you can choose what zoning you put it in. You could decide to make it only commercial corridor, CC.
That shit is.
Right. Well, I think we all know that. Now, I'm not gonna get into, okay, what about a business that's gotten all the approvals it needed and it's not in the CC zoning district, which let's say hypothetically you guys decide in the future to make it only CC, what about the ones that got the approvals already that are outside of the CC? That's something we can discuss in private, I'd rather not say, but I would not be comfortable with you taking away the rights that may have been acquired by a business that got all the approvals it needed to open up its business, whatever that business may be. And then you decide to change your zoning just as it's about to, open the door to its business. That's something a lawyer would never advise its municipal board to undertake. Okay? Hope that answers some of your questions, certainly not all of them.
Joe, you wanna make a motion for amendment?
I wanna amend the resolution to change it to 2,000 for everything. No practical stage.
All right, well, what he's asking for, just to put on the record, and write this down. He's asking I'm just gonna define what it is and then we can the motion would be on section 2, of the, legislation would be to cut out, 2i3, 1,000 feet from a property lot, that number 3 would be cut. And then number 4 would be renumbered to number 3 and would now delete everything after the word occupied and then just add any other licensed dispensary. What that would do is it would make it a 2,000 foot restriction from any other dispensary, any other licensed dispensary, which would include medicinal or recreational.
Is this in the resolution or in this?
This is I'm just looking at the legislation, the cannabis legislation itself. Now, the resolution just approves of the, all right, so what he's saying is that, he wants to make it 2,000 feet from any dispensary, which would then from Starbucks would then prevent any other dispensary from opening in the downtown. Regardless of the fact that, whether Starbucks stays medicinal or recreational. The motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I have one other suggestion.
Yes.
We chatted about this very quickly.
We'll do that later. The distances, we'll do that later.
Yeah.
We're not doing that now. We have a motion to change the legislation in a very specific way. I want to focus on that.
Right. So I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. Joe, do you want to explain?
Well,
Or do you think it's explained?
I think it's explained, but I just want to make the public aware that be careful what you wish for, because the Starbucks medicinal dispensary might then opt to go to a retail recreational. And so we'll be right back to square one. with a recreational dispensary in the center of the village. But I understand what everybody is saying, so I'm not gonna stand in the way, so 2,000 foot.
Thank you.
All right, let me speak to this and I'll give my sort of talk about the whole legislation in the context of this potential change. I oppose eliminating section 3, and I'll explain why. That we have to explain where this law came from. We want to frame this legislation is designed to enact within the village stronger protections than are afforded by the state, especially since the state might at any time change those regulations. It's to institute a 2,000-foot recreational dispensary from another recreational dispensary, and then 1,000 feet from a medicinal. The idea originally was we were going to put a 2,000-foot around. We talked about different, but we'd eventually come around to a 2,000-foot radius around the the idea was to be around the Starbucks, because everybody believed that it was going to become a recreational. So we talked about there being one downtown with the understanding that it'd be one recreational. When it became clear that the Starbucks is going to stay as a medicinal, and that the communal kitchen space has been at least gone through some approval process at this point, has been, I don't know if it's been, we heard it's been granted, the license had been granted, we've not been able to get confirmation of that. It was my opinion, and this is my belief, is that I think we should have one recreational downtown. I know you disagree with that. That's my opinion, and I share it as in good faith and in principle as much as you share your opinions. All right, so I believe there should be one recreational downtown, one recreational uptown. I would actually be okay with a second recreational downtown at the other end of town, down the south end of town. But this was my compromise with Joe when we talked about it, to say 2,000 feet instead of 1,500 feet. 1,500 feet from communal kitchen would allow for another dispensary down at the very end of Sobro, or at the very end of, maybe just the very end of Sobro at this point. And we balanced it to say, but we don't want, regardless of whether that recreational dispensary might go out of business, that we would then want there to be at least 1,000 feet from Starbucks, if that stays in business, to prevent there from being any other dispensary that close to Starbucks. That was the idea. I thought it was a fair balance. And remember, the whole idea of this is to actually prevent more dispensaries from opening. It's to basically to prevent anything other than one recreational. And when it comes to the medicinal, we really don't have any control over that whatsoever. And that's another point I want to make. The conversation we just had, here's the thing. We don't have any jurisdiction over the medicinal cannabis. Even if we had opted out, the Starbucks dispensary could open as a medicinal cannabis dispensary. The same way that there's a Bardonia dispensary in Clarkstown that's a medicinal dispensary, and Clarkstown opted out, but they still have a medicinal dispensary. The rules that apply to the recreational do not apply to the medicinal, as we just discovered, because they just gave a license to a recreational dispensary that is within 2,000 feet of a medicinal dispensary that's been approved. The state did, so they clearly are not enforcing their 2,000-foot law against medicinal dispensaries. So right now we have no protection from the state on medicinal dispensary. This is to add a protection against the medicinal dispensaries. All right. And I guess I should explain, why do I think it's a good idea to have a recreational dispensary downtown? Because recreational dispensaries sell products that people want to buy. They are legal products. They are, in some cases, very popular products. And I think that it's a kind of business that I recognize there are negatives to the business, but there's a lot of positives in the fact that it will bring foot traffic to a downtown area that could use it. We have empty storefronts. We need to have businesses that will attract people to our village. And that's the reason I support it, on top of the fact that it's a legal business. Now, to show you that I was paying attention while you all were talking, I have a bunch of points here I just want to make in response to some of the things that were said. A lot of people brought up, well, marijuana is a very dangerous drug. I respect that and completely understand that. That's not what we're deciding today. The state already decided, made it legal 3 years ago, or 4 years ago at this point, made it legal. People can smoke it anywhere they want. They can smoke it at home. They can grow it in their backyards. It's a legal product. There are issues with the federal government in terms of how they handle money, but there's a legal product in New York State. they looked at all those facts and that's what they decided, and I'm not gonna revisit that particular decision. At least I'm not. The other thing that came up, some of the issues that came up, the illegal smoke shops, they should be shut down. We don't want them right now. We definitely don't want them after the legal dispensaries open. My understanding is that there are things in play that will address that, but we don't talk about ongoing police issues. We don't talk about them publicly. I will just make the point, I recognize that you feel as if you represent a consensus in the village. I respectfully disagree. I understand that you've come your, meeting after meeting and you're very passionate about it. And I'm sure you talk to a lot of the people that are passionate about it, but, I don't agree that your position represents a consensus in the village. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong that dispensaries will be good for the village, I'm wrong about that. But that's the role that I'm taking. That's the role that I have as mayor. That's the role that everybody here has as trustees. Huh?
It's still in process, communal kitchen.
We get different, we heard different things.
No, I'm looking at it right
I know, but like,
Okay.
I know. that.
Anyway.
And the fact is, listen, I know Chai talked about leadership. I disagree with her to the extent that I don't think leadership is putting your finger doing this, putting it up to the wind and saying, what is public opinion? What are the loudest people telling me to do? And you may say, well, in this case, I'm disagreeing with you. And you may say, well, I wish Joe would follow our public opinion. There may be an issue a month from now where you will be glad that I don't reflexively bend to the people that come to the meetings and express passionate positions, because I might disagree with them and you might agree with me on that one. That's my job. And that's the job of the people up here, is to render their judgment about what they think is best for the village. And I'll reiterate, we wouldn't do it if we didn't love the village and we didn't care about the village. Because I told you I make $18,000, it's around there. They make like $5,000, the four people with me. And they work extraordinarily hard, and they wouldn't do it if they didn't care about the village. And so I want to just make that point very strongly.
Thank you.
And the other, I think that's the basic position here, is that I don't think that cutting it to 1,000, if we did make it that's 2,000 from everything, then we would basically be outlawing any other dispensary from opening in downtown. And the only dispensary we'd have downtown would be a medicinal one. And the medicinal one could convert to recreational if it did, but I don't want the only dispensary downtown to be medicinal. I want there to be a recreational dispensary to address the needs of the people who want to be able to buy legal cannabis. So that's my position. That's why I oppose the motion to amend, but I'll let other people address the motion to amend, and then we can see where we are with the overall legislation. But I don't get a round of applause for that, for my passion. I know you disagree, that's fine. Yeah, it's getting late. You don't want to delay things for a standing ovation. Anybody else have a comment on this?
House, we have treehouse.
I'm aware of that. That's not downtown. It doesn't bring traffic downtown. I need traffic downtown. That's the answer. Does anybody else have a comment about the amendment?
I don't have an issue with the amendment. It would have been nice to be able to get that out, but I don't have a problem with us putting a 2,000 feet dispensary restriction in. I've never had an issue.
Then we'll only have
with the
Starbucks.
2,000. I'm okay with that.
All right.
I've always been okay with that.
Okay.
I've always been okay with that. But that's all I'll say on that, since clearly anything else is upsetting.
Anybody else want to make a comment? All right, we have a motion second. This is now a vote on the motion to strip out the 1,000-foot restriction and institute only a 2,000-foot restriction from any dispensary, from any other dispensary. All in favor? Good. I don't vote. All right, so 3 is amended. And 3 is eliminated, and 4 is now from any other dispensary. All right, with that said, does any other comment on the overall legislation?
Yeah.
No, not public comment. Any other comments? You're aware, this is it now. We don't get from the kitchen, we don't get anything. We really don't care.
At this point, look, clearly my opinion doesn't matter.
Your opinion matters. It matters to me.
I would prefer it, but it is what it is at this point. It is what it is.
All right, all in favor of the legislation as amended?
No.
All in favor of the legislation?
It's out then, huh?
Wait, just so everybody understands, the downtown is out except for Starbucks.
Yes, except for Starbucks.
Except for Starbucks, okay. All in favor of the overall legislation?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm opposed, but my vote doesn't count when it's a non-tie. But I want to be on the record as opposing it, for the purposes I described. And
Your vote counts. It's just.
it's only in a tie. All right, it doesn't matter. I vote no, it's fine. I vote no for the purpose I
The mayor
described.
votes no, his vote counts.
All right, I should have closed, motion to close the public hearing.
I thought we did that.
We didn't close it. We didn't close public
Okay,
comments.
so
So we
moved.
have to.
Second,
Do we have to do this all over?
no, we just gotta do it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, public hearing is closed. Our next public hearing, we motion to open the public hearing on hedges. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a second. You neglected, you brought it up originally, you didn't bring it up again.
Well, we're still.
Motion to reopen we gotta do the distances, we gotta fix that. We gotta fix how the distance is
I
calculated.
just have a suggestion,
Wait, I'm just saying, how do we get this back when we pass the resolution? How do we just passed it.
You would have to renotice the whole brand new policy.
They also decided we're gonna do.
It's fine. It was just a little clarification.
And then outside, and then after that, it's uniform. And then-
Thanks, it's just a helpful part.
What is it? No.
All right, so we're good with that. All right, can I get a motion to open the public hearing on the hedges?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comments on the hedges.
Alex does.
Yeah, no, the 5 foot that everybody kept on talking, well, we don't gotta bring it down to 30 inches.
5 feet wasn't even on the table.
Wait, for the hedges? For the hedges?
All right, everybody take it. If
Yeah.
you wanna leave, please leave, but please be quiet. We still have a meeting going on. No, can't even try to. You all just voted down. The last time. Why'd you go for it? Is there mad?
You spoke with me.
Yeah, we're gonna get sued like in the kitchen.
Well, it's not even.
You'll be broadcast. Yes.
All right, let's go. Hedges, who's got comments on hedges? This is a public hearing on hedges. No, if you have a public comment on something else, it's to the end of the meeting.
No, it's about hedges.
All right, hedges, go ahead.
Wait, can I be funny now?
Yeah.
If you want to hear all of that, would you come here just to speak on hedges?
Yes, actually, I understand.
All right, go ahead.
Don't complicate, make your comments. If you really.
Yeah. So,
Do you not understand?
No, I did, but guys.
Why did you?
Do you know?
No, I.
No,
All right, wait, hold on. Sit down for a minute. Hold on a second. There seems to be some confusion here on the board about what we voted for. So I want to make sure that we have, everybody is understanding what the decision that was made. Because. Can I reopen the public hearing?
No, you can't. You closed the public hearing and you voted. There was a motion, a
We
second.
can't
and then-
retake.
We can't be misunderstand. We
You
might
would
have.
have to amend the local. You would have to go through the
Oh,
same
okay.
process. You adopted the local.
Stop offline about
We'd
it.
have to.
Well, we're done. We're not starting this again.
No, this is in.
The church and school differences.
Those are all already there.
Yeah, we can't.
We didn't change that.
Already, that wasn't amended. It's already in the
I
existing
can't
code.
prove this.
No, there was something
Did you
in
not
state
understand?
regulation.
I could get caught up in.
One sentence or it's.
Yes, that was it.
119.1.
I get it.
Just to clarify, that's how the measurements are made, but I don't think it's necessary. That's not what they're. Why don't they discuss it?
It's a being on the bed. That's more what I got. Okay.
Are you okay with whatever you're discussing, to be discussed in front of this?
Yeah,
No,
we're
we could go-
discussing the law.
well,
We're discussing the law.
So just to summarize, because the motion was made, seconded, and it was carried, you therefore took action on the local law, the public hearing was closed, of course. So you adopted the local law, so
As amended.
as amended.
And we
So,
can't, if
in
we're to
order to-
redo that, we have to redo it,
Through a-
Right.
go through the whole process.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, so.
We'll do it after we get sued.
Well, yeah.
All right.
It will happen.
You know, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yeah. Thank you.
Motion for a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Second, motion.